State arms company Denel has confirmed receiving 100 million rand from the Republic of Chad for the purchase of 40 military casspirs. The total cost of the contract, which was signed in 2017, was 230 million rand. Denel, however, never delivered the vehicles due to internal squabbling. Chad has since cancelled the contract and is now demanding that its deposit be paid back. The cash-strapped arms manufacturer says it's investigated the matter and submitted a statement to police to deal with the implicated individuals. Talib Sadik, the chairman of Denel's audit committee, as well as a board member, joins us now to talk further on this. Good to have you. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you, Leanne. Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers.
All right, so what's actually happening here? Because I know there's so much more to the story. I've given such a brief summary, but perhaps you can give us a little bit more background on what's actually happening here.
Broadly, this talks about the mismanagement of state-owned companies. And we were appointed as the new board. We were appointed in April 2018, so we've been around for about 18 months. And at the time of our appointment, this contract with the government of Chad was brought to our attention because the company hadn't achieved the contractual milestones. The contract with the government of Chad was signed around September 2017, and soon after signing the contract, the company had received about 100 million rand. The contract was signed by the group CEO and the group CFO without any authority. They had stripped the company of all of its responsibilities. The negotiations were led and concluded by the group CEO and the group CFO. With the monies coming in, the contract was an onerous one, meaning it was loss-making, and also unrealistic timelines associated with the delivery of the 40 casspirs. As a result of that, once we as the board had been appointed, the rest of the management brought this to our attention, and we then, initially this contract was investigated by the chairman of our board, Ms. Monchla Shlashla, and the chairman of our Finance and Investment Committee, Ms. Gloria Sarobe. And out of that initial discussion, we then felt we needed to do a full comprehensive investigation on this contract. And what we have found is that both the group CEO and the group CFO had acted with high levels of negligence. Yeah. They grossed their election of duties in contravention with legislation that would have caused them. They should have acted with the best interests of the company, and they did not. Yeah. So as a result of that, as you've pointed out earlier on, we have lodged a statement with the South African police and the Hawks, and we're also pursuing civil action against the implicated individuals.
Okay, so I mean, we look at really the bigger picture in here as well. Is that in terms of the manufacture of these vehicles that were ordered from Chad, from my understanding and everybody's understanding, was that the whole center of this was a fight for IP rights and ownership rights, which had been given to the Gupta-owned VR Laser for free. They never paid a cent for it. They got the property rights and the ownership of producing, which was for Denel a very lucrative division of the company, and it was handed over to the Guptas. And that's where the stumbling block came in. Is that correct?
That's definitely not correct.
Not correct?
No. The IP for the Caspir vehicles is owned by Denel, and it remains owned at Denel. VR Laser was a subcontractor to the program. And VR Laser, the relationship with Denel and VR Laser precedes the Gupta family's or indirect acquisition of VR Laser, because they, together with an individual named Salim Essa, had acquired VR Laser in 2013. But the relationship between Denel and VR Laser goes back in the early 2000s. And the reason why the project did not take off is that at the divisional level that would have been involved in executing this program, they found that the contract was loss-making. It was against their recommendations that they had made to the group CEO and the group CFO, that this is the price on which you should contract the order at, and this is the timelines that we can proceed and deliver those contractual milestones. And both the group CEO and the CFO ignored those requests. VR Laser was a subcontractor. Some of the agreements that was entered into with VR Laser post-2018 were unlawful, And that was subject to a separate investigation which we've done. And so around the VR laser, they do not own the IP around the Casper vehicles. Denel owns it, but being a subcontractor, they had access to the IP.
Access to the IP, but not ownership. So
not ownership.
Where are the reports coming in saying that they had ownership, and it was only when they went into liquidation, and that was in September last year, about a year ago, when they went into business rescue, and then their assets were sold off, and then, only then, did the IP come back to Denel. But until that moment, it was solely and wholly owned by VR Laser. Where did that come in?
We are not sure the source of the news. Obviously, it does concern us, the sensitivity of this information being shared publicly. I think we fully support transparency, but we do operate in an environment where there are confidentiality agreements in place with our clients. So that was totally untrue. And the transaction that we did enter into with the government of Chad, that was regulated by the National Conventional Arms Control Committee of South Africa. And here, this is a controls committee that regulates the sale of all defense products that Denel, not only Denel, but any company in South Africa that's involved in defense-related products and systems, they would need to go through this approval process prior to selling these products to our customers. So at no stage where we alienated ourselves from that IP. We had always owned it, but with VR Laser being a subcontractor, they had access to it. Equally, we had other subcontractors involved with this particular project. In terms of our investigation, we've seen another subcontractor called ENNE7, and also there were other subcontractors as well. They equally would have had access to the IP, but they did not own it.
So I'm going to go back to this whole thing, because at the root and the center of the reports that have been coming out in the media and talking to this, which you're saying is highly confidential, but it is public knowledge at the moment, saying that at the root of the cause and the reason why the delivery was not made on this order from Chad was because of a squabble between IP rights and ownership between the Gupta company and Denel. So you're disputing that. That is not the reason.
Totally incorrect.
So
that's definitely not the reason.
What
As
is
I
the
said,
reason?
The two key reasons was that the contract was loss-making. So at the divisional level, Denel is quite a complex structure. You have at a holding company, and then you've got standalone divisions underneath. At the time of the contract being negotiated, the group CEO and the group CFO ignored the governance structures in place. And generally what should have happened is that the division that would be accountable for delivery of this order, they would have led the negotiations, and they would have concluded the pricing equally, the timelines of delivery, and then elevated in terms of the governance authority levels that would have required the different levels of approval. But as I stated earlier on, the division that would have been responsible for delivering this program was stripped of its functions, and all of that authority then resided at the top. And at the top, the group CEO and the group CFO, they negotiated a significantly loss-making contract, which was against the policies of Denel, in that they were not acting in the best interests of the company, not protecting the assets of the company, and equally they had negotiated an unrealistic timeline for it. So the division that was responsible for executing this contract stated that this is unachievable. That was the one issue. The other is that the contract was signed around September 2017, but the division that would have been charged to deliver only got to know about this contract around December. Which was 3 months down the line. And they had a very little time thereafter to deliver those milestones. And that was unachievable. Generally, what was negotiated was more or less half of the required timeline that you would normally have executed this contract. So the executive management had cut down the delivery time by almost 50%, which was unachievable.
So why are we sitting in this position where there's almost, as we again reading and hearing about, a diplomatic row between Chad and South Africa? They're demanding their money back. They're very upset. In fact, they want to involve President Cyril Ramaphosa in all of this now. Why has this taken so long? If this was already in 2017, we're almost sitting now 2 years later, and this is still happening. Why the big time lapse? Why has nothing happened?
So when we got on board during 2018, so that was already 6-7 months after the contract was signed, and Denel had received close to 100 million rand. So when we got in, the lower level management brought this to our attention. As I stated initially, there was an initial investigation led by some members of our board. Since then, we were trying to see whether we could deliver, renegotiate with the government of Chad, obviously working through the diplomatic channels, because dealing with, at a government level, we felt the right body on the other side would be the government of South Africa. So we've been, we did not perform, and this talks to the mismanagement that existed in the corporation at the time when we got in, and we were trying to fix up all of those issues. The contract was loss-making. Had Denel gone ahead to execute this contract, we would have needed further funding, and we were not able to deliver on that contract based on the contractual amounts.
Threats of taking Denel and South Africa to the International Court of Justice. Have you heard anything about this? Is this on the cards?
We haven't heard about it. We have been engaging with the government of Chad through their attorney. We did receive a letter, and we are having discussions through the attorney, and it's something that we would like to move forward from, you know. The government of Chad did give us these monies, and I think the right thing for Denel to do is to have discussions with them and look at returning that cash.
Absolutely, pay back that money.
Correct, yes.
And is that in the pipeline?
That's correct.
Will that happen? Because that's what they're demanding.
That's right. But there are other things as well associated with the contract which we need to talk through.
Yeah. Just in terms of the investigations that are going through and the individuals named, I know that you spoke to the CEO, the CFO. Who else is being investigated? And are they on that list to be investigated? I know you've handed over to the police. Give us some names.
So we started this the investigation during 2018. We concluded the investigations in the second part of 2019. And what we have found is that there were members of the Denel board, the former board, that were involved. We have reviewed over 2.5 million records, and those records included computer imaging, looking at travel records, and interviewing people, former employees of Denel, current employees, and also outside parties. So we've gathered all of that evidence. So we believe we have a very robust document. We've now put together a statement which we submitted to the South African police, and at the same time we are pursuing civil action. So we know the individuals, and our report does reveal those details. So we are aware of it, and all of that information we've now passed it on to the police, and our board is very clear, you know, where there's criminal consequences that needs to be faced, that's what we are going for.
Yeah. I'd like to also talk to, I mean, we speak about paying back 100 million rand to Chad, which just happens to be one of the poorest countries in Africa, and South Africa having a very bad reputation to get out of this as well, having taken this money and no delivery, and now they're fighting to get this money back. But at the same time, there are staff here in South Africa that are fighting for their monies. I know that there has been some form of a bailout from government to Denel. At one point, only 85% of staff salaries, the amount of staff salaries, were being paid to staff members. Where are we here? Are staff being paid in full? How are the financials looking at Denel? Yeah, so
a couple of things. Firstly, around the Chad government, it was a very serious issue for us as a new board. You know, we the points you are making, you know, it's one of our customers, and it's part of the, it's in the rest of Africa, like we are on the African continent. These discussions also came out of the Organization for the African Unity. The particular contract with the Chad government was not going to be used for some war-related activity. You know, it was around a peacekeeping operation. So that is something that the new board really tried to see whether we could deliver on it. Around the salaries and around the liquidity issues, firstly, we are very pleased with the recapitalization we've received from government. The employees that did receive 85%, within that month we were able to pay them their full salaries, but it's obviously not great for a company the size of Denel to find itself in that particular position. But with all the cleanups and all the governance changes, improvements that's been happening, we find that the financial institutions have now become very supportive of Denel. So we are able to access our banks, and also our asset managers that hold our long-term notes for funding. So we do not believe we would be in a position like we found ourselves a couple of months ago. We were not able to meet the full salaries of our employees. We believe we've now passed that, but what now lies for Denel is to perform. You know, and program management, like the CHAT contract, is an example of poor performance, and we need to fix that up. And we believe with the initiatives that we've undertaken in terms of cleaning up management, appointing a new management team, improving the levels of productivity in the organization, this improving our governance framework. We've launched a governance turnaround plan, and also we are re-engaging with our customers for them to see that Denel is moving forward in the right direction, and we are trying to position ourselves as a reliable, quality supplier of programs.
Thank you for talking to us here on the program. We'll leave it there for now. That was Talib Sadik, who is the chairman of the audit committee and member of Denel's board, confirming media reports that the company did receive the amount of 100 million rand for UN Army vehicles ordered by the Republic of Chad, and also giving us an update on the matter and clarifying certain issues that they're saying the media is not reporting correctly. So thank you for coming in and updating us.